Jeff Ogilvy survives Wingfoot.
Now the moment Aaron Badley has waited.
Gary Webb is the 5-time Australian Open champion.
Golf at its best by one of the best in golf, Peter Thompson.
Stand in front of a crowd like this today and win the PGA Championship is pretty special.
He's done it at last. Greg Norman.
Matt Jones gets his name on the Stonehaven Cup.
Leishman to 11 under. Now we've got a new leader, kids.
There it is! Adam Scott. A life changer. Coming up next, you have unrestricted access to golf across Australia and the world. Thanks to Golf Australia, we're going inside the ropes.
G'day everybody, welcome to episode 8 of Inside the Ropes. A really special week, a week out from the next of the major championships, of course, the Open Championship, going back to Birkdale. And it's with so much excitement that we're about to say g'day to Ian Baker-Finch, who, well, all those years ago, Joe Charlton had his great triumph in the Open Championship of 91. Good to see you yet again. How are you?
Thank you, Andy. It's great to be back, boys. Thanks for having me on.
And Mark Hayes, of course, it wouldn't be Inside the Ropes without him. How are you, Hayesy?
Hello, Murray. I'm pumped to get Ian Baker-Finch on. He's my idol. He's my golfing idol.
It's a little exciting, I've got to say. It's a little exciting to have him on. Curtis Luck, we're going to hear from as well on the way through today. There's a heavy Queensland influence on the program, which is telling and significant given what happened in State of Origin last night up at Lang Park. I'm sure we're going to have a pretty happy Cam Smith joining us on the show a little bit later on. We'll get through all the bits and pieces that are happening in the world of golf as well on the way through. But it is with great joy that we say on our humble little podcast, a very, very warm Australian hello to Ian Baker-Finch, who is a week away from being asked a lot about your Open Championship triumph all those years ago. Finchy, thanks for joining us on the show.
Great to be with you all, and congratulations to the Mighty Maroons. Up there in the State of Origin. Sensational stuff.
Did you get a chance? I saw Paddy.
Pretty excited.
Hey, Finchy, I saw Paddy Mills was tweeting about it. Australians all over the world were aware of what was going on in game number 3 last night. Did you, by any chance, have the opportunity to see it?
No, but I was up early, and my couple of buddies up in Queensland were keeping me up to date on text and phone calls, etc. So I knew the result, and knew what was going on throughout the game. It was from 6 to 8 in the morning, or 6 to 8:30 in the morning here in Florida. So yeah, anyway, it was good to see. Obviously, proud Queenslander, but more so proud Australia.
You'll probably get a few tears from Ben Everell. You probably follow the whole trail of tears, Finchy, through his Twitter feed.
Yes, he does love the Twitter, doesn't he? And, obviously blue through and through, which is a bit of a shame for him, poor bugger.
Hey, Ian, we've got the Scottish Open to not get our way through because it's a fantastic championship in and of itself. But, we've got a big weekend of golf over on the European Tour before all eyes, globally focus on Royal Birkdale. And when that happens, of course, your triumph back in 91 is, sharply in focus. It must be, it must be a really nice, is it a really nice time when, your championship amongst others there remembered the way it's remembered, given the fact that, we look to crown the next Royal Birkdale Open champion?
Yeah, I look forward to the Open Championship every year. It was always the big event as a kid. This putt was to win the Open Championship when I was practicing against Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer and Tom Weiskopf and Tom Watson and Gary Player when I was a kid back in the days. Those imaginary games around the backyard and home courses. It was always to the Open. And then to play in it in 1984 and see that I could mix it with the best and then eventually get to win it. Special times every year at the Open Championship. And then, as you say, when it goes back to Royal Birkdale, it just rekindles so many wonderful memories. And leading up to it, I've been tweeting sometimes, a couple of old swings from back then in 91 or, a couple of pictures of Haley and I and with the claret jug, things like that. Yeah, it's very special. It's a big part of my life, obviously.
So, Finchy, we'll come back to a bit more of 1991, but you mentioned 1984 there. You head to St Andrews for your first Open Championship. you later said that taught you a lot about what you needed to do to win the Open itself. You were right in the mix there until that last round as a first-timer. What was that experience like? That's unbelievable, especially at the home of golf.
Yeah, it was incredible. I was there. I was 23 at the first Open, and I led the first 3 days. So, actually, I was 68 the first day. I was in second. I think Billy Longmuir shot 66, and then I had 66 the second day, and I was well in front. Played with Nick Faldo the third day and shot 71, continued to lead. So I was in the last group on the Sunday with Tom Watson. And Tom was going for 3 in a row and his 6th Open Championship. And I was playing with him. So it was obviously a lot of, who's this Australian kid with the double-barreled name, was the British press. And, Tom Watson going for his 6th, so it's pretty special. But one of the best memories I have of that, so many great memories, but the one thing was watching Seve. Tom Watson and I stood on the back of the 17th green, which is essentially the 18th tee as well. And we watched Seve in that navy blue sweater that he wore for the next 6 years over Sunday, pumping his fist in celebration as he made birdie on the 72nd hole, and Seve won that 1984 Open. So some great memories of being paired with Tom in such a special Open, always special at St Andrews, and watching Seve so excitedly, pumping the fist as he made the win. And Tom, I think, had to birdie to tie. He had to hold his second shot to win, and he paced the shot. He drove it off the tee and then paced his second shot, and unfortunately for him, didn't get it done. But anyway, great memories, and made me realise that, hey, I can play at such a high level, not just play in the Open Championship, but maybe make my goal to win it.
And it probably your next phase of the learning lesson to be able to get across the line in 91 probably happened 6 years later from reading some of the stuff you've said in the interim. Back at St Andrews again, you put yourself in the mix with another legendary name of golf and obviously a good colleague of yours now, Nick Faldo.
Yeah, that's right. I shot 64 on the Saturday and was in second place. Nick was leading, but I was in the last pairing again on the Sunday at St Andrews. Another fantastic opportunity and moment, and watch Nick do what Nick did so well in that period from 87 through 92. He was the best in the world, I believe, in the majors. He won 5 in that period from 87 to 92, and then, of course, he won again in 96 at the Masters, 3-6. But I saw really what you have to do and how you have to grind it out, and that was the biggest learning step for me for the next year when I had a chance to win it at Birkdale.
Yeah, Finchy, so you wrap all that experience into one and you come to 91, Royal Birkdale. What are the keys to success? What do the players need to do next week to hold that cup?
Joe, there's so many things, and I promise you the number one thing in any major is to be able to get there in the frame of mind that you have done your work prior and you are ready to go, and you're going to treat this week like any other week. You know it's special. You know you've worked your ass off to get there. You know you've done everything you possibly can to play at your best level, your highest level. But then you have to be able to sit back and say, I'm just going to play. I'm not going to get flustered. I'm not going to let the moment get the better of me. I'm not going to start thinking about what this is all about or what it's for or how special it would be. All of those things that come through your mind, and just go play golf like it's any other week. And that is the hardest thing because you're so pumped up and you're so ready. I can't fathom Tiger Woods and certainly the great Jack Nicklaus or any of those great players, any of the multiple major winners that had a period of time in their life where they were in that frame of mind multiple times, that they could win multiple majors. And it's that's the key, to be able to go play the way you know you can under extreme pressure and not let the moment or the week or the that tension get to you.
It's fascinating, Ian, listening to you talk about that because, Hayesy, Joe and I'm sure, in the last couple of days knowing you were coming on have dived back into all the bits and pieces we can find from 91 and about 91. And, you shoot that 64 in the third round to put yourself right in the mix. And pre-round, or when you've been talking about, post-winning it, you said all you wanted to do was stay out of your own way. Just don't get in my own way in that final round. That's easier said than done, I imagine. Like that, did you have some sort of technique that allowed you to do what you did, in the front nine of that final round?
I had a breathing technique that I'd been using. I'd been practicing it for a couple of months before. I actually put a steam room in at my house and practiced it in the steam room. A young guy had been coaching me on it. Relaxing in a pool, sort of floating in a pool at night and breathing in the steam room and then practicing it out on course. And the breathing technique is what really, I think, allowed me to stay focused and calm and relaxed and all of those cliches that we always talk about, staying in the zone. But I really was so focused that I kept focusing on my breathing and my breathing techniques. And that, I think, is what allowed me to stay out of my own way and play the tournament like it was just any other event, which is really easy to say and so hard to do.
Oh, God, just imagine.
That's an amazing story, especially great preparation for that drowning humidity of Liverpool, Finchy.
Yeah, the hard thing there is you've got a sweater and a vest and rain gear. When it gets to 70 degrees, you're sweating, over there. It's like a heat wave when it gets above 75. And then you've got the rain gear on. It rains parts of the day, especially on the sun day. And then you've got the sweater when the wind blows and it gets a bit cool coming off the water as the tide changes. You're never too sure. You've got to be prepared over there, that's for sure.
So, mate, you walk onto the first tee on the final round, and you've got everything under control, as we've just learned. You make you nearly make a birdie, I suppose, on the first, and then everything just lights up. Your putter's in control, your irons are just mint. Suddenly, you're on track to one of the great 9 holes in major championship history, trying to convert your first or your third chance at winning an Open. How do you stay in that moment? How do you not think about what's ahead 9 holes ahead?
I had a lot of things going for me. The fact that I'd been in that last pairing a couple of times before, so that didn't fluster me. I was happy to tee off last. I was happy to be in the lead, so I tied for the lead. I played with Mark O'Meara, who was a very good friend of mine. We lived in Florida and practiced regularly together, so we were very good friends and remain good friends to this day. He in fact went on to win in '98 at Royal Birkdale, which was another special moment I'll share with you sometime. So I had a couple of things like that going for me. I was in great form. I'd been top 5 in nearly every tournament I played the 2 months leading in. I had my wife Jenny, who was 6 months pregnant with Laura, with me, and Haley, our 2-year-old, and I played in the garden with Haley for an hour or two before the late tea time that day. We had a house rented just down the street. I had Steve Band staying with me, who was there coaching Robert Allenby and helping Robert in his first Open Championship. I actually had a couple of practice rounds with Robert. So everything just seemed to be as you would plan it. Everything was ready to go. So there was nothing special about it. I got to the first tee early, focused for 5 or 6 minutes quietly by myself on the first tee and prepared myself for the round and just went out and played and did what I had planned on doing or what I had visualized doing, and that was playing sensibly and hitting the ball where I aimed it and making a few putts, which was hard to do that year. The greens weren't great at Royal Birkdale that year. Everyone was complaining about them early in the week. They gradually got a little better as time went on. And I made 5 putts for birdie on the front 9 and just 2 putted the rest on the way home, just sort of hung on.
So Finchy there too. What you talk?
Everything fell into place.
Sorry, Finchy, I cut you off there. But what you're talking about there is
That's fine.
preparation. So, and the calmness and I suppose the normality that good, thorough preparation can give you. Was that something that you would have executed week in, week out, or was that sort of a special major sort of experience?
I think you focus harder in a major. I mean, everyone talks about it, don't they? You listen to Adam Scott and Jason Day and Greg back in the day when all of our top players talked about we build our whole schedule for the year around the majors. The majors are what means most to you and to your career at the end of your career, your performances in majors. So everything's built around them and around the time and the schedule throughout the year. You maybe focus a little harder because you know it's a special week, but what I was saying before is you then have to, although you've prepared so well and you're so pumped up and you're so ready to go, you then have to bring that amp down somewhat to allow you to just go play like it is any other week. And I think that's the hard thing that the real champions have been able to figure out.
So Finchy, midway through the round, you've turned in 29, just an incredible 29. Just sounds amazing even to say it right now. You said in the video that I was watching last night, you've first had a look at the leaderboard as you rolled in the birdie on the 9th, or actually your 2-putt par on the 9th, I think it was, and
the 7th.
Yeah, you had to look at the leaderboard and you thought, well, I'm a mile in front now. The world's sort of closing in on you a little bit midway through the back 9, and then you've at probably a crucial time with Mike Harwood and others coming back towards you, hit a magnificent iron shot, long iron, I think on the 16th, and it's Pete Bender, your caddy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Turned to your caddy after you've hit it and you said, did you like that one, Petey?
And he said, love it.
Is that like the shot that you remember the most? I mean, it wasn't, to 2 inches or anything like that, but under the pressure of the situation with the world mounting on your shoulders there, did that sort of feel to you like it was the shot that got the monkey off your back?
It was one of many, but it was really the one that, it was a tough shot. It was into the wind. It was a 4 iron. You could hit it in those little pot bunkers there and make 5 so easy. I'd had a couple of birdie chances at the par 5 before that at 15, par 3, 14. 13, I had a chance, long putt that went close. I had chances, 12 the par 3. So I hadn't had a birdie since the 7th. It was at the 7th that I looked at the leaderboard, Hayesy, and I said to myself, boy, you better not stuff it up from here, or they won't let you back in the country.
Did you
in front, there was Ballesteros and all of these names up there on the board, and I'm like, oh my God.
Freddie, yeah.
5 in front.
Did you feel that pressure from home, Finchy?
That shot.
Did you feel pressure from home?
Totally, because I felt like I'd stuffed up before. I felt like I had a chance in 84, I had a chance in 90. I just felt that I had sort of a chance at the Masters in 91 as well, before the Open that year. I just felt like I needed to convert, that everyone would be watching. Hopefully, that obviously they were pulling for me, but hopefully they weren't sort of sending through vibes of, oh boy, it's Finchy, I hope he gets it done this time. But those sort of thoughts are more imaginary stuff. They're not things that really hinder your abilities or focus. But yeah, I wanted to do it. No, I knew that it was a big moment for me. So that shot at 16 really was. I guess it was. I was still in control. And then at the 17th, I hit a 5 iron on the green and 2-putted for birdie. And that's when I knew, if bar a broken leg down the last, that I had it won. 3 up in front going up the last. That was the big thing. So the 2-putt birdie, the shot at 16 gave me the confidence that I was still in control. But then the birdie on 17 at the par 5 was that was the icing on the cake.
So, Finch, I'll jump forward a bit here because it's sort of apropos of what you've just said in that answer about the feeling that, people were pulling for you a bit. You made an amazing speech, like a lot of speeches that, players make, on the 18th after they've won these major events are probably a bit of a blur for the person making the speech. But you said to, the fans who were at Birkdale and probably to people beyond, you said, "You've always been right behind me. I hope that now I'm a winner and not a loser. You'll stay behind me." It felt really profound. It felt like really coming from deep within you a little bit. Do you remember those words, and do you remember where it all came from?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of the background. I guess my background, a little bit of the fact that I never really saw myself on top. I never really thought of being number one. I never really wanted to be. I just wanted to be the best I could be. Everyone says this once again, so all the cliches, humble beginnings. Mum and Dad brought me up well, youngest of 6 kids, always getting a kick up the arse if ever I got ahead of myself, that type of thing. And it really was more I'm still the same person. Just because I'm a major champion now, don't forget about me. I'm still the same kind of feeling. So I wished I'd been able to talk for longer and really say more in that speech when I look back on it now. But I was so emotional and it was such a big time. I couldn't really go on anymore. I felt like I would have broken down and not been able to get it out. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to say what I wanted to say and say what I thought. There was no real time to prepare. I didn't have a manager there writing my speech for me. I had a pregnant wife who was quite emotional and a 2-year-old girl I was watching out for. She was falling in bunkers and in front of all the cameramen and having a great time. Haley has so many fond memories and photographs around our house and around the place from that time. And poor old Laura, she just sees Mummy's fat tummy at the time. She doesn't have any memories of it. But
how priceless is that, Finchy?
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah.
Another thing I've got to say, one of the great things when I did win, Jenny was there with Haley, and Pete Bender was such a great caddy and very, very much a part of my success in those couple of years, that I played so well. But then grades came down with a glass of champagne, and that was a really special moment. You had the forethought and the general feeling of, hey, another Queenslander, another Aussie's done well, and he came down and gave me a big hug and a congratulations. That was pretty special too. Before I'd signed my card or anything, he was right there. So I've always remembered that.
Can I ask you about that feeling that is specific and particular to an Open Championship? And there's great vision, people can source on YouTube if you can't remember it, but that you've hit your approach up to 18 and you've still got that tricky little pitch, which I'd love to ask you about before we finish up. But that feeling of working your way through the crush of fans and you emerge, through the ruck, and then you get clear of the people and, that frenetic noise and, the sort of stampede nature of it all. And then it's all in front of you. It all opens up and you've got clear air and it's the vastness of an Open Championship and you know that it's yours now. You've got it. And Peter Ellis talked about it in the commentary, said it's a very emotional moment, plenty of time to think about things. What was it? Can you remember distinctly what it felt like to emerge from the fans and have that space and that vista and that environment in front of you?
I can. I have vivid memories of it. Firstly, Mark O'Meara was lucky to make it through. He lost a shoe, and Melee has been finding our way through. And I think that was the last year that people were allowed to run out onto the fairway with the players. I'm pretty sure that was the last year. The next year at Muirfield, they changed that and put double barriers up and kept police there. And anyway, Mark finally made it through and he put his shoe back on and came up. But I was my mindset was, okay, don't celebrate yet. You still got to get it done. And I played the hole safely. I hit my drive. I've got a picture of Royal Birkdale, the painting, Linda Hartog painting, in my office as I talk about this. And I see the picket fence down the right-hand side of the 18th. And I was on the tee, just quickly, I was on the tee, and there was a lot of people being pushed up from the 17th green, and they were falling up onto the tee, and there was a lot of noise and stampeding and whatever going on. And, you know, sort of a little bit out of my routine. I look down the right-hand side, and I see this picket fence, and I'm like, oh, my God, I didn't realize there was a fence down there. So I shuffled over a little bit and aimed down the left rough line and hit it down the left. I was not going to hit it out of bounds. I wasn't going to make a mess of this. But it was funny that at that very last minute I noticed it, and I'm looking at it now on this beautiful painting. But I then laid up with my second. I hit a 6-iron out of the rough to be short right and avoid the bunkers. Always avoid the bunkers at Royal Birkdale because they'll ruin your round. And then it was, as I came through that crowd, as you say, Andy, I've still got to get this done. Don't celebrate yet. A couple of acknowledgements to the crowd, talking to my caddy, just staying in the moment. And then I had at least 10 little practice swings with my lob wedge from over there, about 30 yards right of the green. And I'm sure my caddy wanted me to pitch and run it left of the bunker and keep up to 30 feet.
Why didn't you do that?
No way, I'm going for this.
I'm desperate to know why you took that line. It all happened so quickly, and yet when you look back on it, there's so much time to think about it. It's a strange one, but the noise and the crowd and the cheering and the whole environment is so special, and that's something that you never forget. In fact, when I went back there in '98, I did a little television piece for the Japanese network, and I was walking up the last hole with this young man that was interviewing me, and the club played noise through the speakers. This was the week before the Open, and they played the taped sound of what had gone on in '91 through all the speakers that are surrounded in the stands. Oh, I cried. It was amazing.
How cool.
And everyone that was in the clubhouse came out on the deck and clapped as I walked up. You know, I was just playing around the golf and talking to this reporter. I was with Kevin Cross, a very good friend of mine from Australia. He and I were just having a round of golf as a practice round, and they did that for us. It was really, really special. But it just brought back all that flood of emotions and memories.
Oh, what an amazing! And so, Finchy, you climb this mountain, right? It's the the achievement of a professional golfer's lifetime. Was it the moments after it, and as the dust settled on it all? Was it everything you expected it would be?
At the time, I think even more, because of the notoriety that went with it, and now all of a sudden everything I said in media interviews was gospel, and everyone wanted to know, my thoughts on the price of eggs in Denmark, and I had no idea. And it was a lot thrust upon me. I was 30. I wished I'd had. These days, guys have a team around them of advisors and helpers and, someone just getting everything done for them and writing the words and advising them on what to say in the media centre and getting them through all of this. But at that time, it was just me, and I had a good caddy, and I had a good manager in the background, David Yates, who was with ING at the time. I didn't really have anyone like there helping me out. I was a dad and a husband, and a new baby on the way, and Laura was born early October. So there were so many expectations and so many extra time-consuming things that make this at all. That part of it I wasn't really aware of. I wished I'd had better help or advice at that time, like all of the young guys seem to have these days. But all in all, it's made my life. You know, I'm Ian Baker-Finch, the Open champion.
Mm-hmm.
So it was everything that you work hard for and still is, 27 years on.
Do you ever get sick of hearing that title, Finchy?
No. I actually should have a tape of that. And the champion golfer of the year, 1991. It's very special.
When you look back at the list of champions at Royal Birkdale, does that sort of add even more gloss to it? I mean, there's Arnold Palmer, there's Lee Trevino, it's the who's who of golf who've won at this tournament, this venue on the Rota.
Yeah, in my opinion, and obviously it's a biased opinion because I won there, but it's the best links course maybe in the world, but certainly top 10 in the world, and it's the best venue for an Open Championship. It's just a spectacular links course that provides wonderful views for the galleries. The course plays beneath the fan dunes. It really is a true links. And my mentor and good old friend Peter Thompson won there twice, in 54 and 65. I think that added to the luster of it all for me as well. He calls that 65 victory his greatest achievement because he played against the best in the world that year. All the Americans started coming over when Arnie started coming in 1960, and it really sort of gained momentum as the Open Championship in the 60s. I think that adds to it, the fact that it's a great course and a great list of champions. Johnny Miller, of course, in that wonderful battle with Seve back in 76. Tom Watson won there in 83. Yeah, there's some great champions there. Mark O'Meara in 98. And Podrick Harrington, of course, the last time it was there.
Well, Finchy, spending some time with you on our podcast has been a magnificent precursor for what lies in store. This time next week we'll be settling in at about 6 o'clock for long, long nights and huge wide vistas of the golf course and not a lot of stuff happening, but we just love it. The way that the tournament comes back into our houses, over in Australia is magnificent, and we can't wait. It's been a joy to ask you to relive it for us at least one more time, mate. Thanks for being so generous with your time. We really appreciate it.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I could give you another 100 memories for another half hour, but we'll save that for another time, perhaps. And I've enjoyed being with you. Thanks, Joe, and thanks, Andy. Thanks, Hayesy. Anytime.
Thanks, Finchy.
Good stuff, Finchy.
Ian Baker-Finch joining us here on Inside the Ropes.
Hi, this is Sherelle McMahon. Swing Fit is the fun, healthy, social way for women to get started in golf. You'll learn the basics of the golf swing and how to putt over a 6-week program and get your whole body moving through yoga and Pilates-style exercises. You don't need any golf knowledge or equipment. Simply turn up in comfy clothing and get started. You'll be surrounded by like-minded people and receive constant support. So get outdoors, meet new friends and learn a sport that you can play for the rest of your life. To find a program near you, visit swingfit.com.au.
G'day, it's Nick O'Hearn here. Whenever I get the chance, I catch up with Inside the Ropes to follow up on all the latest golf, and I urge you to all do the same. It's a great show.
How lucky are we, first of all, to have access to Ian Baker-Finch a week out from the Open Championship, but how good a man is Ian Baker-Finch?
Yeah. As I said before we talked to him, he's my golfing idol, Finchy.
He's refreshing.
Yeah. He's the
Aussie
most...
humbleness.
He's one of the most giving blokes you could meet in any walk of life. The fact that he's got all this other stuff going on that could separate him mentally from other people, he just doesn't give it any credence at all. He just is a normal bloke, as normal as you'd ever see, completely unaffected. It's unbelievable.
And couldn't agree with you more, and is... he gives to... I think he would have been happy to come on a podcast like this because he knows it's going to be primarily listened to by Australian golf fans. And his willingness to open doors to Australian golf fans and people like you, like us who work in the industry. I mean, you've seen that firsthand, Hayesy.
Yeah, I have. I've been very lucky for a very long time. I spent 6 years in Queensland as a kid, and I played my junior golf. I learnt golf at the Twantanoosa Golf Club, and what became the Jack Newton Pro-Am was just a little, a club-bound thing at the time. As a 10, 11-year-old maybe, the junior program there got to caddy for the people coming up, and Ian Baker-Finch is a young pro from Caloundra just up the road, and I got to caddy for him for 18 holes, and awesome. It affected my life, and it still continues to affect my life, and he has that influence. I saw him at the Australian Senior Open in Perth when he turned 50 a few years ago, talking to a young kid who's just got stars in his eyes, and he treats him as if he's his own son. It's truly remarkable, and I'm sorry if I sound sycophantic here, but he is the most giving person of an elite athlete I've ever seen.
So the Augusta story.
Yeah, well, again, my first time to Augusta, and I'd obviously known Finchy a little bit, but not, he's not my best mate or anything like that. And he said, "Oh, great, so great that you're here, Hayesy. Come along. To come down to my tower." And at that stage, in the CBS commentary team, he's got the perch sitting above the 11th green, 12th tee, down the prime real estate in world golf. He's got his own little commentary tower down there, and he's only on air for a short period on Sunday afternoon. He said, "Come down at 1 o'clock," when his stuff doesn't really start until sort of 3. So I just sort of trotted down there, not really knowing what he expected. But he's just perched up there in his tower, and we sat up in the tower for like 3.5 hours, just talking about the world, the universe, everything. Hawthorn Footy Club, he wanted to know what was happening with his Mighty Hawks. He wanted to know what's happening with the rugby league. He just is so unaffected. I keep saying that. But, to sit there and be in the spot in world golf with the bloke who's your hero is unbelievable. And to have him treat you like just a normal bloke, it's just icing on the very, very sweet cake.
So, Joey, he mentions the word unaffected, and it's 100% right. I think everybody, gets a sense of that. And I didn't want to mention this, I didn't want to ask Finchy about this because we wanted to talk about 91 in particular and not the rest of his golfing journey. But, and I hope he doesn't mind me bringing it up if he's actually listening to the podcast, but in just looking at bits and pieces, knowing that he was coming on, I found a piece from Sports Illustrated from 1998. Rick Riley, you talk about Ian Baker-Finch being, a hero. I saw Rick Riley at Augusta in the media centre back in 2010, having lunch on his own, and he's a hero of mine. I thought, bugger, I'm going to go over and talk to Rick Riley and say g'day, and I did, and he was great. But that's by the by. He wrote a piece in 98 about the 7 years after 91 and what had happened to Ian Baker-Finch from a golfing perspective. And it was a hell ride. Like, it was torture, what happened to Finchy. And if you want to know and you want a refresher, find that Rick Riley piece from Sports Illustrated and your hair will curl reading about it. Then you hear Ian Baker-Finch talk. And I wouldn't say he's unaffected by what he went through, because you can't possibly be unaffected by that. But the fact that he's not a quivering bag of jelly who dribbles every time someone asks him a question, given what he went through and what the game did to him, it's a bit of a miracle. And Rick Riley wrote in that piece, it was winning the Open was the cruelest thing that ever happened to him, because he went on this journey because he realised, I can now compete with Faldo and Norman. I am one of them, so I need to get my game to a level where it is as good as theirs. Not just rely on the game that he had. And that was that search that Ian Baker-Finch went on to find an extra 20 yards off a tee, or whatever it was that he tried, learn how to hit a draw, whatever he tried to find that started to see his game unravel. The fact that he has been able to get through that as a human being and come out the other side the decent man that he is, it's a credit to him,
He's got no interest in being at Birkdale next week. He could start. He's got to start there if he wants it. He doesn't have any interest in going over there to play. But if you watch him play, if you could see him play in his little club in Florida there, or when he comes home on the senior tour, or just mucking around with his mates, you'd realise that not only could he play without sort of doing himself any damage, he could actually be not saying contend, I'm not saying that, but he could actually make a cut here still. He's that good still. And if your ball went into a ball washer, Andy, and you had to get up and down for your life, he is the man you want over the next shot.
Has he floated any interest in tinkering with it again?
Nope. He
nothing
point blank refuses. He's got no. He plays the occasional senior event when he comes home with his mates here, but he'll tell you his game is not where it is. But if you hear those guys who actually play with him down in Florida, they'll say he's still got it.
Oh, word filters out. Oh, Baker-Finch has teed it up somewhere and he shot 68.
Yeah, 67 at medalist today.
Yeah, so it's clearly still there.
Yeah.
A joy, and we're lucky to have him on, and let's take him up on the offer that he's going to be available to us at some other stage down the track.
Well, I hope he does listen to this, because I really want to talk to him about Olympics at some point down the track.
Oh, we should do that.
We just didn't get time today, and I'm sorry for everyone, and Finchy for that matter, that we didn't get to that, because that's fascinating, and his passion for Australia, even though he is based in Florida with his work, is as high as a kite. And he wants to make that really sing, and he's got a lot of thoughts about that for Tokyo and beyond, maybe Los Angeles or Paris, wherever it is now that we've got it back in the Olympics for a third time.
Exactly. Just a reminder to listeners to subscribe on Apple Podcasts or for Android users, download a podcast app through Google Play to get the show delivered to your device every Thursday. Leave a review. There'll come a point at some stage in our existence where we don't read out the names of everybody that does leave a review, but we are still in our infancy, Joey, and if people do leave a review, we're going to mention their names. We got a couple. I gave the reviews to one.
I've got them right in front of me. Yeah, we have had a couple of shout-outs. Clate's very popular. They're demanding a little bit more course reviews and course architecture talk from LKM. Thank you. Also a 5-star review from Glennis M72, and this is an interesting name. It's by not my real name yet. They have said, has very easily slipped into my weekly collection of podcasts, great host, and so far an awesome collection of guests with equally awesome topics. So thank you very much.
Spot on. Golf Month, Hayesy, just quickly give us an update on what's happening there.
As we said last week, we encourage everyone to get involved. If you want your club or facility anywhere around Australia to try and throw open its doors to the public at large and try and get someone involved in golf who's not, we really, really strongly encourage you from all levels of the game. Doesn't matter whether you're a complete chopper, and someone haven't picked up the club or right up to a pro. Get your club and facility involved. Take them down to the range, go to mini golf, play foot golf, whatever it is. We'd love you to get involved. Golf Month is in October, Andy,
yes.
But in about a month's time, we're busily signing up all the different clubs and facilities to make a range of offers on a calendar through October. So we've got a couple of months to prepare for it. And as I said, we actively encourage you to get your club involved.
Beautiful time of the year to get back outside too. Winter's behind us, and it's a good thing to do. If you're listening to Inside the Ropes for the first time and you're a bit interested in what you've heard today and you'd like to maybe investigate the back catalogue, go to www.golf.org.au/Inside the Ropes, or Google your state's website to listen to the state-specific programs that we run as well.
The Golf Australia website is now the place to go to look up your handicap and so much more. Whether you're out and about on your phone or in the office trying to avoid work, just go to golf.org.au and punch your golf link number into the box at the top of the homepage. Who knows, maybe that last round was just good enough to put you in single figures. While you're on the site, check out the daily golf results at your club, view our course index for up-to-date ratings, read the latest golf news from home and abroad, listen to Australian golf podcasts and interviews, and watch video tournament highlights or tips to improve your game. It's everything a golf tragic could want. Visit golf.org.au today, the home of Australian golf.
Hey, it's Jeff Ogilvy. I can't be in Australia very often, but I love keeping up with everything on Inside the Ropes podcast. Good bunch of guys, and I love listening.
Time now to catch up with one of the finest young golfers, not only in Australia, but on the planet. He's part of this flotilla of young 20-somethings who are taking the game by storm, and I reckon we're going to get him in a pretty good mood. He is, of course, from Queensland, Hayesy and Joe, and I'm tipping last night, I don't know whether he was at Lang Park, but I'm tipping he would have been watching Queensland continue their come-from-behind victory in Origin. And I reckon he'd be a pretty happy man. Cameron Smith's the young fella I'm talking about, and he's been good enough to join us on Inside the Ropes. Hello, Cam.
How are you, mate?
Were you at Lang Park? I know you're at home. Did you get to Lang Park last night?
Yeah, I did. I was fortunate enough to be a guest of the QRL last night, so we got some really good seats, and yeah, it couldn't have turned out better for us.
Did you plan this break to actually be at home during Origin, Cam?
Maybe.
How good was it? I mean, 50 record crowd. We're watching it down here in Melbourne, and we all assume a bit of a Queensland identity during Origin, given the fact that most of your team plays for the Melbourne Storm. How big was it last night?
Yeah, it was pretty big. I mean, that's probably the biggest game of league I've been to. They got a attendance record last night, and then just the atmosphere at Suncorp there is incredible. So, yeah, goosebumps and chills all night. It was pretty cool.
Mate, if I could give you a green jacket, or I could give you the chance to hoist up that Origin shield, which would you take?
Probably, yeah, I'd definitely be the green jacket, but the Origin shield wouldn't be too far behind.
Hey, not only are you a rugby league fan, before we start talking about some serious golf stuff, I'm not sure why I'm surprised. I was just doing a bit of reading about you, and you're another one of these Australian golfing rev heads. How long have fast cars and flash cars been of significant interest to you?
Pretty much my whole life, really. My old man's into that kind of stuff as well, into the old, the old kind of V8s and all that rubbish. So, it's been a part of my life for ages.
How many cars have you got on the go currently at home?
I've got 2 in Australia and I've got 2 in the US.
And which one, if you can just sort of jump behind the wheel of any of the 4 cars you've got, which is the one that you most enjoy driving?
That's a tough question. I love them all. They've all got their different. They've all got their different perks. I've got a Subaru STI here that I've done a lot of work to. That's really quick, basically. And that's awesome to drive. But I think the one that I enjoy to drive the most is probably the GTR over in the States.
Back here, when you are at home and you head out to, I think it's Willowbank Raceway, which is about 45 minutes west of where you are in Brizzy, how does your coach feel about that when you're speeding around that track?
They usually don't know.
Well, they do now.
Yeah. No, I don't usually. I don't try to. I try to keep it to myself as much as I can, really.
There was a line in a story about this, Hayesy, and I was reading it, and the line started about your Nissan GTR that you're talking about, Cam. The story started, he'd only owned the car for 7 days, and Cameron Smith had already put 1,000 miles on it. And your quote to that when asked about it was, I didn't buy it just to look at it, which I thought was priceless.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah. As soon as we got it, my girlfriend and I, we drove to Orlando, which is like a 2.5-hour drive there, and we spent about 20 minutes in Orlando and then drove back. It was kind of it's more to just be in the car. Yeah, it's pretty funny.
2.5 hours, but about 400 kilometres, Camo.
Yeah.
Mate, when you first started banking a couple of really tiny checks on the Australian PGA Tour, you used to, put a new set of sheepskin covers on the seats or something of your old car. What do you do now when you have a collect on the big tour?
I'd like to think I'm pretty smart with it. I put most of it away, and I'm going to renovate my home here in Brisbane. I'm just putting a bigger deck on the back, something that I've wanted to do ever since I've had it. So I'm just doing that, and just with the cars as well. That's about it.
Yeah.
So other than revving around while you've been at home, I've seen you've also been out at the QAS squad training. Does that feel like a lifetime ago to you when you were part of that as an amateur?
Yeah, it felt weird having Tony and Grant telling me what to do and what station to go to again. Usually I just do my own thing now. But no, it was good. It brought back some good memories there, and it's good fun. Yeah, I loved it.
So what, Cam, when you were there, just learning the ropes, so to speak, you were one of a heap of young kids coming through. Now you go back there and every kid in that QAS squad hangs on every word you say, and they all want to get and see what you do and how you practice and all that sort of stuff. That must be a complete sort of, bizarre experience for you mentally.
Yeah, it is a bit weird. Knowing that I was there just 3 or 4 years ago in their shoes, and it's just weird to. I still think of myself as just one of those guys. I don't try to influence anything on anyone. So but it was pretty cool.
But here you are now, from that kid that Joe and Hayesy are talking about to one of these young kind of 20-year-olds who are identified as being part of the next wave of real talent and guys who are going to shape the game for the next decade and beyond. When you see your name put alongside Spieth and Matsuyama and Rahm and all these guys, do you feel, that's where I'm at and that's who I am now, and you feel comfortable being sort of linked in alongside all those guys?
Yeah, now I do. I feel very comfortable out on the tour now. I've managed to make a few friends and all that kind of stuff. When I first went over there, it was a bit tough, just having basically no one there and trying to do your stuff without any support really. And now having a couple of friends over there and just playing events. I think I've played like a bit over 50 events now on the PGA Tour, so getting real comfortable and know all the guys really well. So I think that's been the biggest thing. Just just making a couple friends and just making it easier on yourself.
Because you are a homebody essentially, Cam, aren't you? You love being back around. I know you get out to Wantima and doing all your things in Brisbane just as you always used to. It's home base for you, and that's not going to change, really, is it?
No, that was the goal at the start of the year, and it'll probably be the goal next year as well, was just to get up enough points to come home for a decent amount of time and kind of hang out with family and friends. So, I don't think that'll change for a long while yet.
You talk about, acclimatising and feeling like you belong there, and obviously, the human side of it, making mates and knowing, how to get from point A to point B and what to eat and all that stuff is really important. But how much does winning change all of that? The way you see yourself, on the biggest tour on the planet. I mean, you have that win that you had, with Jonas this year. How much of a difference does that make, Cam?
It's huge, really, when you think about it. A couple of years after this year on the tour, guaranteed. Mate, I think it's just a bit of job security and a lot of stress off the shoulders, really. They're definitely the two biggest things.
And in terms of this, one of the things that people like us are always interested in, how it allows you to plan. What comes next. You don't have to chase it, like it's in front of you now, and a lot of the courses, and I guess you probably go, I like that track, suits me, and I like playing that part of the world. Does that become part of the way you lay out your own schedule for the next couple of years? Yeah,
for sure. So basically, the last 2 or 3 years, I've just played where I could. Not knowing whether I'd really be into the invitationals and stuff like that, the bigger ones, and now I can just kind of free will it and pick and choose at the start of the year and kind of make up a really good schedule and stick to it, and just see how it goes.
Well, Cam, one place you're probably going back to is Louisiana, where you had your maiden victory there. Now, a couple of months have gone past. Glad to see you got your voice back, by the way, after the presentation ceremony. Mate, but thinking back, you played a magnificent back nine in regulation on the Sunday, in combination with Jonas, but particularly yourself. And you're sitting there, presumably halfway up the 18th fairway, and Kevin Kisner plays like one of the most ridiculous shots on tour in a couple of years. He's not listening, mate. Tell us your thoughts about his little miracle chip shot.
I thought it was going in the water when he first hit it. No, I think that I've put that on Jonas because I had a 1 or a 2 foot putt there to win on the Sunday night. Or it was going to be to win, and Jonas had like a 6 footer or an 8 footer. He wasn't that far away, and Jonas said, "Oh mate, I want you to tap it in for your first win before Kevin chipped it." So I think he's done a little bit of a like a jinx type thing, and and then he chipped it in. Yeah.
Did your heart just jump up into your mouth, mate?
Yeah, it's a little bit heart wrenching, but just made it better on the Monday morning when we got it done.
One of the kind of crazy things about all of that, so you have this win and, the bank balance looks better and all that sort of stuff, but because of the nature of the tournament, there was no rankings benefit from it. And I was reading somewhere, knowing that you were coming on, that you actually went out in the world golf rankings rather than coming in. Well, I don't know whether that's a big deal to you at all, but it's just insane. I'd be pissed off if that was me. Like, I'd be so annoyed by that.
Yeah, it's a bit annoying. I think I went out 2 spots. Jonas went out 4 spots.
Unreal.
Yeah, so it's a bit annoying, especially considering that the international President's Cup team is based off world rankings, and that's something that I've obviously been working towards all year, and had been playing really good coming up to the event, and then obviously getting the win there and not really getting, I wouldn't say like unnoticed, but not getting the credit that you've worked for to get on the team is kind of a bit sketchy, but
yeah, a bit annoying.
So has Nick Price spoken to you about that since, Cam? Like, is he aware that your ranking isn't perhaps where it might have been, logically?
No, he hasn't spoken to me yet. If he's listening, I expect a call off him soon.
Oh, Camo, I reckon we're chasing him down. I reckon he's going to come on inside the ropes sometime in the next few weeks. So we'll put your case really, really hard for you, mate.
All right, thanks.
So you're at home at the moment. Where's the next step in the Cameron Smith? Oh, you're off to the Open, of course you are. Yeah. So when do you take off and head over to Birkdale?
We leave tomorrow night to get in Saturday morning. Then we'll just a couple cruisy days, maybe walk a few holes, play a few holes. I've never been to Birkdale before, so I'll really be taking everything that trying to walk and get as much off people as I can the first few days.
Talking about that, your preparation into the Open, we've just been speaking to Ian Baker-Finch, and he talked about the importance of that. How has your maturity grown in that capacity over the last few years being on the tour in terms of a preparation point of view?
Yeah, my preparation really has never been better. I think it's a mature thing, just knowing that this is your job and this is what you have to do, so you may as well do it right. So the last couple of years I've really tried to focus on that preparation, Monday through Wednesday, putting in the hours and then just kind of taking it easy for the rest of the week.
One guy you're going to have to beat over there, mate, is Jordan Spieth, and I know at Royal Sydney where I wouldn't say he's cut your lunch, he's just made a good birdie on the playoff hole, but I'm pretty sure that's still not grates with you, it might be the wrong word, but that's something that you're desperate to achieve, isn't it, before you're hanging up? You want to get your name on that Stonehaven Cup and presumably the Kirkwood Cup too at the PGA Championship. These are things that you'll keep coming home to play in, I understand, for a long, long time.
Yeah, I've always been, like I said before, I just love home, so the more that I can get back and play those events, I will for sure. If this schedule doesn't allow for it, it's a completely different story. Obviously, my job and my work is over in the US, and if I have to sacrifice that for 1 year or whatever it is, depending on how I lie over there, I will have to, but I'll always be back when I can.
Last one from me before I let you go, Hayesy and Joe, if they've got someone else. But do you ever find yourself, I don't know whether you're a golf nerd or not, but whether it's a game that you're just really good at, but do you find yourself ever going online and just looking at that 3-wood you played at Chambers Bay? Do you go back online every now and then and just have a look at that shot again?
No. I'm kind of, I don't. Yeah, I just kind of.
Oh, mate. When was the last time you saw it? When was the last time you watched that shot?
Probably however long the US Open was.
I watched it again last night. I had to watch it about 5 times. The way that ball, the strike was, obviously everything you had and magnificent, but the way that ball just keeps curling. I don't know, from where you were, it would have been 260 metres away or whatever it was, but did you have any sense that this might actually go in? Were you aware of how close that thing was curling to the hole?
No, it was that green kind of has like a big raised front on the right-hand side there.
Right.
And you can only see like a tiny bit of the front left-hand corner. So, as soon as we just heard the roar and, obviously everything coming up, and then our scorer said to us as we were walking up, he said, it's like 6 inches away. And then I said to him, you better not be lying.
Right.
Because it'd be the scariest 3-footer ever.
Yeah, a few people had trouble with putts around that hole, particularly from up above it. Yeah. It wasn't easy to get that ball in that hole.
No.
Hey, any of you took it?
I wouldn't mind asking one more question about that, because I was in the behind the grandstands there. It sounded like an earthquake. I thought the San Andreas fault had ripped apart, Camo. Could you hear that from up where you'd hit the 3-wood from?
Yeah, it was incredible. I've never experienced anything like that. It was awesome, and then the whole walk up the fairway as well was, it was pretty cool.
Well, mate, there's a lot to look forward to. Not only next week, obviously, but for the rest of your career, it's all in front of you. But when it comes to an Open Championship at Birkdale, there's always reasons for Australians to get enthusiastic. Mike Clayton said on this show a couple of weeks ago that of all the Open courses on the Rotor, it's the one that is probably most reminiscent and familiar to Australians regarding Australian courses back here. So Australia's got a great record of sticking their nose in the frame, mate, and there's no reason why it can't be you. So good luck, and thanks for coming on the show.
No worries. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thanks, Camo.
Cameron Smith, who's one of the really bright young lights of Australian golf, joining us here on Inside the Ropes.
G'day, I'm My Golf Ambassador Jason Day. I'm really excited to be an ambassador for My Golf, Australian Golf's national junior program, jointly run by Golf Australia and the PGA. My Golf is every Aussie kid's first step on their golfing pathway. It's all about teaching children the basic skills of golf in a safe and healthy environment, and just as importantly, about the life skills that golf can teach you that distinguish our sport from the rest. Remember to visit mygolf.org.au for more information.
G'day guys, it's Brian Russell here, and I'm a long way from home, playing on the Latin America Tour and living in the US, but I keep up with all my Australian golf by listening to Inside the Ropes.
Welcome back to Inside the Ropes. Great appreciation we all have for the time that our young guys give up for us, and another guy who's becoming very familiar to Australian golf fans and world golf fans for that matter, has contributed his time to Inside the Ropes this week. One of our regular helpers, Ben Everill, the USPGA Tour's Ben Everill, great friend of the podcast, is caught up with Curtis Luck. We'll talk a bit more about Ben and his grief with the State of Origin set up in a couple of minutes, but in the interim, here's what Curtis had to say to Ben when he caught up with him before the John Deere Classic.
Thanks, Curtis, for joining us here on Inside the Ropes. Made a big couple of weeks for you. You must be really impressed with how your game's come along after having that break back home.
Yeah, St. Jude kind of came just in the nick of time. I played, I think, 5 events up until that point, and it kind of just told me that I needed to take a bit of time off and just recharge the batteries back home, see some familiar faces, and get back to the basics. So it was nice to be home and see the coach, and it's been nice the last few weeks out here.
Of course, you came back and had that great finish at the Quicken Loans, and then a good finish again last week at the Greenbrier means that you're basically set for a spot in the Web.com finals at very least, so you must be pleased.
Yeah, very. I think Quicken Loans was a really good event for me in the fact that it just showed me that, on a tough golf course I can compete out here. Last week was great. I found the course suited my eye really nicely, but just didn't make the most of it, unfortunately. So hopefully this week at the John Deere can put some more runs on the board and get closer to sealing away a US Tour card.
Well, that's the thing. You've got the opportunity now that you're sort of secure for a shot at the Web Finals, that you can almost freewheel it in these next few events that you've got to try to get to that 125 number.
Yeah, sure. That's the best thing for me right now is that... and actually, if you want my honest opinion, that was the biggest thing I thought about when I was at home, like what does this year really mean for me? And I kind of came to the conclusion that regardless of my results, I'm 20 years old, I'm playing PGA Tour events, like this is something I've dreamt of, so just enjoy it. If I play bad, I play bad. If I play good, I play good. It's really not going to matter too much. I'm going to come out at the end of the year with great experience and ready to, I guess, enter that next phase of being a professional. So for me, it's nice and it's great that I can kind of come out here and just, play golf.
Let's talk a bit more about you going home, because you've just done it, and obviously you said it recharged the batteries. Cameron Smith's been home doing a similar sort of thing mid-season. What do you think is the benefit of, just being back in Australia and, I guess, out of the American grind of things?
Yeah, I think, for me over time, I've noticed that I'm a really good judge of character. When it comes to me, I make good calls, and I noticed at St. Jude, a few things I felt weren't going my way, but that's golf, and where it usually wouldn't bug me too much, it was. So for me, it was literally about just, as I said, getting back to basics, just getting in your own bed, seeing your family, having a dog to pat, just the simple things, just to get me back in that, I guess, positive frame of mind. But ultimately, I also got to see my coach, my strength and conditioning coach, my physio, all those guys, and it's just a great reset. So I was, just ready to come out and fire at Quicken Loans, which was, perfect.
It seems like you are definitely learning things quickly out here on the big tour, mate. Do you feel like that, that learning experience is coming to you nice and, I guess, naturally?
Yeah, it's been a pretty smooth transition, I think. I think the golf courses play a bit different, which was something I had to get used to. They're long, and there's definitely a big emphasis on driving the ball well out here because of the fairways are great to be in, but when you're in the rough, it's killer. So I've made a few equipment changes. There's been some changes like that, but ultimately it's been nice. I was lucky enough to play a ton of pro events from October last year, to the point where I didn't even play any amateur events, I don't think, after Asian Am. So I had a perfect kickstart to turning professional and being ready for this stage.
Well, everyone at Inside the Ropes is obviously wishing you well for the rest of the season, and everyone back in Australia is hoping you'll have, a big run through, maybe, as we said, through to the 125, but at absolute worst, you'll be having a crack in those Web Finals, so good luck.
Thanks for having me.
How awesome's that? Benny Everell couldn't have done that interview 48 hours later, so devastated would he have been by what he saw at Suncorp. So we're lucky that he actually got Curtis Luck before going through the Origin Series. So, Benny, pick yourself up, dust yourself off. There's always next year.
Have you ever seen a Twitter account sort of deactivated by tears before? I think it was waterlogged.
His phone shorted out. It was
unbelievable.
But how good is the approach, the attitude of Curtis Luck? I mean, he sounds unbelievably grounded.
Yeah, and I think taking that ownership, what we're talking about, where he reflected, he said, no, I need to go home to pat my dog, to see my friends and to reassess with my coach. And living in Australia, I think it can be a disadvantage when you're travelling overseas and you do miss that. And when you can, I think it's really important to reflect and reassess and kickstart again.
So this is the third person we've had, Andy, since we've been doing this in our 8th episode. We've had Ryan Ruffles say that he, killed himself, overcooked it last year by not coming home. We had, and already 2 today, Camo and now Curtis, basically say it's really important for me to get home and get a bit of Oz back into me. Yeah. Now, he's come from Memphis when his world not collapsed, but just wheels were wobbling there. I need to be in Perth. Perth's a pretty good place to be. I need to be there. Let's go. And there's no point if you're not up and about on the tour. You're wasting your time because the world's too good. Those guys are too good to compete when you're half baked. So, full credit to these guys, and again, thanks to all of them for coming on the program.
Here, and you can see something in their body language. I reckon Curtis Luck has this lightness about him on a golf course. Do you know what I'm talking about?
He's charismatic.
Yeah, he's
really
happy
charismatic.
To sort of chat away and have a laugh, and he doesn't look like he gets too down when he misses a putt. I mean, he wants to make everything, but he doesn't look like a guy who's going to beat himself up. And if that means, if he can read the signs where he is starting to get, the world closing in on him, if it's just a matter of jumping on a flight 24 hours later, that all disappears. Yeah. He knows how to offload that, which I reckon is really important.
Great skill to have, and I reckon it's fascinating to see the media over there already gravitating towards him.
Yeah, right. Well, he's refreshing.
Oh yeah, and he's such refreshing. A good talker.
Other bits and pieces, and there's a lot to work our way through before we wrap it up today. But the big news, of course, and we sort of touched on it briefly on the way through, but it's just awesome. Jordan Spieth coming back again. He doesn't make the Australian Open. I mean, this tournament survives. But to have Spieth so committed to coming back at it, to an event that he's enjoying playing at, clearly, this is massive news for the Australian Open.
He's such a great ambassador. I was out there last year just for the Pro-Am Day with about a dozen kids, local Victorians. And we watched him for the entire front nine. All the kids, they just wanted to go see Jordan Spieth, and I was pretty rapt to be able to watch him too for 9 holes. Yeah. Every hole, when he walked off the green, he took the time, no joke, dozens of kids. He took photos with kids, and it was just what he did. And it was just beautiful to watch. Yeah, really beautiful.
There's a story on the Golf Australia website from Bernie Maguire over in Scotland before the Open this week. Adam Scott's heard that news, and he's just fully praised him for just being wholeheartedly committed to not only taking his game around the world, but actually Australia more specifically. He said he's actually spoken to him, and he just raves about coming back to Sydney, enjoying Sydney, loving his time in Australia, doing the sightseeing and enjoying the people. I mean, you tend to forget because he's got that. Sorry, I hope you're not listening, Jordan. But he's got that sort of ball patch going. Andy.
He might be working on that just quietly.
Yeah,
he might be having a little bit of work done.
Bit of Greg Matthews style.
I think he's reversed the natural shedding process. If you know what I mean. Wish somebody had told me about that 30 years ago. But anyway.
But you tend to think of him because he seems to have been around for so long as being sort of mid to late 20s. He's 23. He's got. If you took out Tiger, he's the man by that age in his career. We shouldn't lose sight of that. And if not for a great effort by Matt Jones, he'd be playing for his 4th Stonehaven Cup in a row in November. Yeah. It's phenomenal. And if he gets his 3rd, he joins, the absolute legends of the game. Ozzie Pickworth, Peter Thompson. It's extraordinary, the heights to which he's already climbed.
It's great that he's coming back down. Anything you want to throw into the mix? I've got a few other little tidbits I want to...
Got to talk about Catherine Kirk, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Surely.
Of course we do.
First win since 2010. And to me, it was real Aussie grit. That's what I liked about this victory. She had four-shot lead going into the last round. And
look at the glint in your eye.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. It's so good. She was in auto going into that last round, and then it didn't quite go away. She had challenges coming at her left, right, and centre, and she got it done. And she becomes the 17th winner on the LPGA this year, which is quite a remarkable statistic.
That is incredible, isn't it? I mean, the quality, the depth in women's golf at the top level now. I mean, the potential winners. Week in, week out, it's stretching itself out seemingly by the year. There is that much talent on the women's tour, and when you get people like Catherine Kirk, who obviously had their struggles in recent years, refining and rediscovering their game, this kind of came from nowhere. She missed a lot of cuts, and then she had a T59 somewhere, and then she had a top 10 the week before, and bang, the game's back. And the way she played 18, I mean, she just hit the perfect drive, knocked it to 8 feet. Knocked in the putt. It just was magnificent.
Yeah, she said her mind had wandered to quitting because she had been at the top of her game and she'd been there, but then she started questioning herself that, with this increasing pool of great talent, young talent, at 35 she feels ancient, that she was really starting to question herself. And I think this was just a catalyst, and hopefully we can see more of her at the top end of the leaderboards.
We've seen flashes this year. She's put up a couple of really good first rounds or second rounds, but mostly first rounds in particular. She led at Royal Adelaide in the ISPS Handa Women's Australian Open. I think it was a 66 from memory, something like that. Anyhow, after the first round, it's still there. It's just a matter of getting it out for 4 rounds. And when that putter, I mean, I don't care who it is. No one in the world putted better than Catherine Kirk last week. No. That was just awesome. Absolutely outstanding.
It was awesome.
So if she carries that confidence around, she's got more in her.
At the other end, you talk about feeling ancient. The same week, we have a 14-year-old winning, a 14-year-old Thai, who I've never heard of before, winning on the Ladies European Tour.
And I'm really, really happy, Andy, that Joe's
got it.
Volunteered to pronounce the name.
I'm going to do my best. Attire. Thittical. Is that, you reckon was that close?
I'm giving you a big tick for that.
I'm not criticising
14 years old. 14. I mean, this is not necessarily unprecedented. We've seen, teenagers winning on the women's game before, but just because it's happened before, and I don't know where 14 sits. Has anyone won a professional tournament?
Yeah, we have.
At 14 before?
Previously, it was held by Brooke Henderson.
Henderson won at 14.
She won at 14, 9 months and 3 days.
Jesus.
And then prior to that, it was Lydia Cohen. I don't remember her exact age, but she won the New South Wales Open at 14 something. So she's in good company.
So just because it's been done again doesn't mean we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, it's still a remarkable achievement. And there you are at either end of the age. Oh, not that Catherine Kirk, because, we've seen Trish Johnson win the LPGA Seniors Championship. Wendy Doolan finishing tied. Third, was it?
Yeah,
so there you go.
1 under in the last round.
So, you can still be playing good golf,
Game for life, Andy.
Past 40.
Game for life.
Game for life, of course it is. So, it's happening at both ends of the spectrum in the women's game. A lot of eyes were on the Irish Open, Hayesy, because Jon Rahm did what he did in the final round, and that was what everybody half expected him to do, and that was sort of put a gap between himself and the field. I mean, he's a beast. The guy's a beast, and they got good conditions over there, which made it a little easy to score, and 65, 67, 67, 65. I mean, that's crazy stuff, really.
We actually, this is clearly a topic for us to discuss. It's one of those great ones you can sink your teeth into. I had a couple of tweets during the week, Andy. Not to go too far into it was the warning, or not a warning, but an advice, because they didn't want us to lose sight of the fact that, the Great Links, taking a great tournament to Ireland and expanding, and, not forget Jon Rahm and all this stuff. So before we start into this, I'm paying full credit to Jon Rahm, and I'm not criticising him for what he did in terms of his actions. And the way he won was unbelievable. 2 eagles in his last round, chipping in here, engaging the crowd. He is the man of the future. Like, he's a jet. I hope he's right up there with our young guys. Full credit to him. World number 1 amateur by a mile a couple of years ago.
There's a butt coming here, Hayesy. I'm waiting for it.
Massive butt, Andy.
Come on.
What a farce and a schmozzle that ruling is, especially in reference to, we've just been talking the LPGA Tour. When we come back to Lexi Thompson a couple of weeks ago, the difference is stark in some respects, but it's also very minute in that it was a marking of the ball incident. One's worth 4-shot penalty and one's got a donut next to it. Really, really, really hard to conceptualise for the mug on the street who golf confuses at the best of times when that sort of stuff happens. The rules, I'm sorry, and I'm going to get in trouble for this when I go back to the office. The rules are no longer black and white. They're grey. Yeah. This is the problem the golf is facing. In the community, we need to be seen to be accessible and friendly and easy to understand, and we taint our game with these decisions. It's unbelievable. The guy put the ball back in the wrong spot.
Spot on.
He had no intention of doing it whatsoever. No one's saying it he is. He's a fine, upstanding young bloke. Love him like a brother. He put the ball back in the wrong spot. It's a penalty.
End of story.
He still wins by 6, but that's inconsequential.
But it does change. Look, to some degree, it changes the complexion of what happens thereafter. Oh. He gets the penalty. It's 2 shots. He leads by 3 instead of 5. His head, he gets the penalty because he's done something wrong without intent, but that shouldn't matter. his head might come off.
Yeah.
Like players have been penalised in the past, and it has so affected them that they're fallen apart. Now, we're not barracking for Jon Rahm to fall apart, but that's something that he should have had to deal with. He should have had to deal with the 2-shot penalty, and see whether he can compartmentalise that and still get the job done.
And it's in the fairness for the rest of the field.
Exactly.
We're talking about one person out of a huge field, and I see it as black and white, as you both do too. And I watched Andy McPhee's explanation of it, which went for 5 minutes, and I actually couldn't even understand what he was. No. And I'm a golfer, so you're talking about the general public again, and I'm going, he's talking about 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock, but not to 12 o'clock, and I'm going, mate, I've got no idea what you're talking about.
It was bizarre.
No. Keep it simple.
Yeah, his explanation was on daylight savings time, Joe. It's really hard. We lose sight of who we're talking to because presumably most of the people listening to this right now have some interest in golf. If you think about that from a non-golfer's perspective, like try to put yourself in those shoes for a second. Yep. That ruling makes no sense at all. I was talking to someone yesterday, said if you put the ball, let's say you moved it 1.5 inches inadvertently. If you put the ball 1.5 inches, in 2 inches or whatever in front of the tee markers when you're teeing up, it's a 2-shot penalty. If you did it on the green, but because you didn't mean to do it, it's a no-shot penalty? There's a penalty if you lose the ball. There's a penalty if you hit it out of bounds. You don't intend to do that either, but there's a penalty. I mean, seriously, let's get fair income here and make it so that people understand the game from afar, from outside. If we don't do that, we're kidding ourselves. Yeah.
One thing I'd like to see on that penalty front is just standardising the number of penalty, whether it be 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shot, 5 shot, whatever it is. Who cares? Because it's just, I still can't get in my head. I still have to refer to a rule book sometimes when I go, what do I do in this case? Like, let's just, we are getting there with the rules modernisation.
Yes.
And that will roll out in 2019. But I would have liked to see that one roll out with it. But
let's remember that Lexi's penalty was 2 shots in addition because of signing the incorrect scorecard. So there is not the complete disparity. But again, it's really hard to explain to people the 4 shots difference for something that's effectively the same. And again, I want to stress that I love Jon Rahm, and I'm not saying for 1 second that he cheated. We've touched on that sort of issue with Langer and McCarron, and for that matter, Lexi in the past few weeks. And this is cut and dried to me. He didn't mean to do anything wrong, but he did.
He broke a rule. That's right.
He broke a rule, a cardinal rule of golf. It's the rule of golf.
And it's not as if this isn't front of mind. It's not as if we haven't had this as a precedent for the last 80 years. It was only 4 weeks ago that exactly the same thing happened, and the world of golf was talking about it. Like, everybody in golf was talking about Lexi Thompson. So I don't know. I just don't know how they resolved it the way they did. It just makes no sense.
Are there any jobs going at Maher Enterprises? Because I think Joe and I are going to be officially unemployed at the end of this.
No, I don't think anybody who loves the game, no matter what badge they wear on their breast, is going to be concerned about the commentary that you two have made. Other bits, there's two names that I don't reckon we've had an episode of Inside the Ropes yet where we haven't mentioned either Jamie Arnold. I am obsessed with Jamie Arnold for some reason. He had another T24. Now he's still got some. He needs to close. He's getting closer. He keeps chipping away to get into the top 25, but he needs to turn a 4-round tournament in, and he needs to have a big top 5. He needs to win one of these things because he's putting himself in the frame over on the web.com. On the Symetra, the second tier over it, she just keeps getting the job done.
I know, and I'm going to quote Mark Hayes here. And in his article, he said, the ultra-consistent, which I think is just the perfect description of Hannah Green. Again, another top 10, 3 under. She's still inside the top 10 on the tour. She's placed 7th. And just to give you an idea, I just looked up in terms of the sort of the monetary capacity. She's about 12 grand higher than the 11th place. So she's got a good little buffer, but still nine events to go. So if she keeps up that ultra-consistent form, Hayesy...
Well, flattered, Joe.
So just to clarify, that top 10 gets you a card?
Is that right?
That's right.
Top 10 Symetra get your card. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. Okay. I don't know whether you want to finish on this, but the other one that I was fascinated by during the week was the US Open, Women's US Opens this week, of course, at Trump National. And... did you see Brittany Lincecum get herself into a bit of strife?
Yes.
Did you read all of that?
She's deactivated her Twitter account, I believe.
Well, she's had John Daly coming at her, and every pro-Trump supporter in America, because it's a Trump course, obviously, and she was asked, she's obviously pretty effervescent, pretty lively, and she said, hopefully, maybe he, being Trump, because there's the will he or won't he turn up, hopefully, maybe he doesn't show up, and it won't be a big debacle, and it will be about us and not him, she said to the Chicago Tribune. I don't know him. I've met him probably once. I think it'll be fine. We're going to play an amazing golf course and let our clubs do the talking. Now, she's clearly saying we don't want the golf tournament to be overshadowed by the arrival of Donald Trump. So if in his possible schedule he could stay away this week, then that would probably be great for us. Just let us play our golf and not have the circus come to town. She's been hammered. She's been hammered by a lot of people for speaking her mind on this.
Oh, I can hear you choosing your words so carefully, Andy, every time we bring up the initials DT. We're trying to keep this unpolitical or apolitical.
No, there's a golf angle to all of this, Hayesy.
Oh, absolutely true. But it is ridiculous that the premier women's tournament in the world runs any risk of being hijacked by an appearance or otherwise of someone who may or may not be wearing a wig, Joe. Oh, sorry, we weren't going to go personal. Sorry about that. I take that all back, Donny boy.
I don't think, if he is listening to Inside the Ropes and he can give us a 5-star a review, then we'll mention his name next week, but in a positive way, all right?
We haven't got any fake news. We better make something up.
Yeah, no, that's true.
No, I just think that, this is the tournament this is the Wimbledon of women's golf. Yeah. It just deserves its time in the sun, no matter what happens. And I think he's going to fly in on a helicopter on Sunday, I believe. And
so he has said he will?
That's the story going around all the website, the American Golf website. So they're all the reporters are just begging for it to just, sort of fade into the background on Sunday. That's not going to happen.
It's not happening.
So when the Trump helicopter lands on the middle of the 14th green, well, what a joke that's going to be. And Brittany, I know you're an avid listener of Inside the Ropes. You've got our sympathies.
Indeed. On that note, anyone else got anything else they want to put on the agenda before we say I'd
like to congratulate Minwoo Lee on his runner-up, big charging finish at the Sahalee Amateur in the States, and wish him best of luck in his title defence at the US Boys Amateur title. He's been rounding into some nice form away since he left Perth, and let's hope it comes all to fruition at the US Boys Amateur.
Here. I'm done. Nice to see you again, Joe Charlton. Always a joy having you as part of the program.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Hayesy.
Hayesy, good to see you again, big fella.
Cheers, Murray.
We'll do it all again sometime. Thanks for tuning in to Inside the Ropes, everybody.